Ladies and gentlemen, I have some very important things to say on this video. So I want to ask that you please listen to this video in its entirety. I'm going to be sharing a very, very important warning toward the end, but first I have to get a few things established. There's a lot I have to share. In fact, this video could probably be done in several parts, but I just want to have it all compiled in one place so that you will have the opportunity to go back and listen to it and also to share it. And I want to invite you and ask you to please share it with everyone that you know. I know there are some of you that have been mad at me over the past few weeks and months because I've been bringing some things forward about Donald Trump, and I've been trying to warn the world, I've been trying to warn the church, I've been trying to warn the evangelical community about Donald Trump. And the warnings do not come from political bias. What I have to share does not come to you because I love Hillary or I love Biden or I'm a Democrat. I'm none of those things. I'm a Bible-believing, born-again Christian. I'm Spirit-filled. I love the Lord. I've been blood-bought. I trust Him for salvation, for what He did for us on the cross. The things that are taking place right now are a part of Bible prophecy. And the way that people are behaving right now, the way that the church is behaving, the way that evangelicals are behaving, the patriots, and all of that is part of Bible prophecy. So we have to make sure that we are on the correct side of Bible prophecy. Ladies and gentlemen, Jesus is coming soon. And if my concerns are correct, the tribulation period is very, very close if it hasn't started already. We're that close, folks. And if the tribulation period is that close, and when I say tribulation, I mean the biblical tribulation, the great tribulation of 3.5 years, where the Bible tells us in Daniel and the book of Revelation that it's going to last for 3.5 years, a time times and half a time, 1,260 days. It's 3.5 years for the second half of the tribulation, where the beast rises up and a villain also will rise up with a loud, barking, boisterous voice, a narcissist, a person full of himself, a person that only cares about his own future and not the future of anyone else. This person's going to rise up. He's called the Antichrist by some, or the little horn in the book of Daniel. And that person's going to rise up, and he's going to set the world on fire, and he's going to wear out the saints. He's going to deceive the saints. He's going to latch onto the saints with flattery, with intrigue, with deception, with delusion. The Bible tells us that when the Antichrist rises up, it's the church that's going to promote him. It's the church that's going to be misled by him. The Bible tells us this. And sadly, most Christians don't know this. Most pastors aren't warning their flocks about this. Most pastors aren't telling their folks. Kind of looks like we're in the end times with this COVID thing and the lockdown throughout the world and this coronavirus that has taken over the whole planet. You know, the white horse. And I've been saying that corona appears to be the white horse in Revelation, because the white horse was wearing a crown and conquered the whole planet. And it was a spirit entity. You've been told that it's the Antichrist. But ladies and gentlemen, as we look at the things that are happening around us, what if it's not what you've been told? What if it's something else? What if it's corona? What if it is? It means that Christians need to understand what time it is. Do you know what time it is, my friend? Do you have that in mind? Is that a part of your political infrastructure? It's important, folks. It's important for all Christians and conservatives and right-wingers and religious right and evangelicals who are in America, who have latched onto the Trump train, to also understand what time it is. And if you don't know what time it is, my friend, you're going to be led astray. You're going to be caught up and swept away in the crazy madness that has been infiltrated into America and into this world. And you know who's behind the madness, ladies and gentlemen? Satan. Satan is the great deceiver. He's the god of this world. He's the father of lies. And the Bible tells us that in the end times, he will be allowed to deceive the saints. He will be allowed to make war against the saints. That means he's going to make war against you. He's going to make war against your loved ones and your family. And he's going to make war against the way you think, against your political beliefs, against the things that you hold dear, your ideologies. He's going to make war with all of that, and he's going to create confusion to try to lead astray as many Christians as he can into the abyss. Right now we're watching this thing happen. And a few days ago, the fiasco that happened in the Capitol building proves that Satan is alive and well. Because a lot of the people who have been arrested now and been tagged and identified and who have made statements now to news channels in news reports and newspaper reports are all saying the similar thing. They're saying, when I walked to the Capitol, I got caught up in the excitement and I didn't really think through what I was doing. I keep hearing that excuse over and over and over. And ladies and gentlemen, if that's the case, if patriots can walk to the edge of an insurrection and not be able to have the willpower to decide whether they're going to take part in it or not, and not be able to have the brain function and the rational thinking and the reasoning ability to think through the ramifications, the costs, the results, the consequence, the accountability of their actions, if they can't do that, they're not behaving in a mature manner that we would expect from a seasoned patriot. Because they all said it. I got caught up. I didn't know it was going to turn out that way. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen? It did turn out that way. And on the day that it happened, a lot of folks made excuses. A lot of evangelicals made excuses. A lot of Christians made excuses because we witnessed the same nonsense of excuses, passing the buck, just like Adam and Eve. Remember what Eve said? The serpent made me do it, God. What did Adam say? The woman that you gave me made me do it, God. They had an excuse. They passed the buck. It wasn't my fault. I guess I just allowed myself to get misled. And what we watched after the 6th was a lot of folks make excuses for the infiltrators. And they said it was Antifa. And before you write a comment on here, I challenge you to be a woman of God or a man of God, to use common sense and use the method of listening to the entire matter before you make a comment. Proverbs says, don't answer a matter before you hear the whole thing, because it's foolish to do so. So please don't act like a fool, and don't reveal yourself as a fool and type something in the comments if you're not going to hear what I have to say. Well, Nathan, you're coming across pretty blunt and rude and mean. You know what, folks? We're beyond candy coating this thing. The Church of America has embarrassed the gospel. The Church of America has ruined opportunity for a lot of people to get saved. The Church of America, the evangelicals, the conservatives, the right-wingers have distorted the words of Jesus and behaved in a manner that allows the enemies of God to show contempt toward God, to mock God. Because Jesus says, when he was warning us about the end times, he said, be as wise as a serpent and as innocent as a dove. What does that mean, to be as wise as a serpent? Well, it means that the enemy is pretty slick and has a plan that he spent time coming up with. And to be wise means we have to figure out what he's up to. We have to figure out not what appears in front of us, but what is he doing behind the scenes? What is he doing with the hand that is hidden? What is he doing with the things we can't see? We need to think about it, folks. We need to consider, not just take what we see in front of us as the truth. We have to be as wise as him and figure it out. Unfortunately, that's not how church folks are behaving lately. Church folks are not being as wise as serpents. Church folks are acting like discerning people who have embarrassed themselves. And they are not acting as wise as a serpent. They're acting as foolish as Eve and Adam. That's how they're acting. And they're not being as innocent as a dove. No. The church today wants to take the will of God out of his hands and do something with their own power, with their own skill. Why? At the behest of a crazy man, of an imposter who faked his way into the White House 5 years ago and took the church for a ride, who embarrassed the church, who hired himself a bunch of advisors who were yes men, who unfortunately many times would come to their senses and then abandon him, and then he would get a new crowd. He had a revolving door of people who wanted to be a part of what he was doing, but they all left. And my friend, ask yourself that question. Why do cabinet members and secretaries and advisors and aides and a bunch of folks who are hired by Trump in his administration leave so soon? Why aren't they sticking around? Why? It's because they start noticing who he is. They're noticing. They're seeing with their own eyes that, oh, he's not who I thought he was. And ladies and gentlemen, I have been talking about this for 5 years, and a lot of you folks got mad at me and you said, let's give the Lord a chance. Why? Your discernment showed you what was going on with Trump. A lot of you folks wrote me 5 years ago and you said, I'm going to just hold my nose because I don't want Hillary. So now we have an embarrassment. Now we have the whole world laughing at the American church, American evangelicals. The testimony of the church has been trampled on. It's all over the mud. It's an embarrassment. It's a joke. Am I bothered about it? Yeah, I am. Yes, I am. I'm bothered that a lot of folks wanted to have a pipe dream, and they didn't look in their Bibles. Before Trump showed up, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of folks said that Obama was the Antichrist 5 years ago. Why? Why did they say that? Why did you say that? Well, because he was bad, Nathan. Well, how was he bad? You said America's not a Christian nation. Well, it's not. It's proven now. We don't have America's not full of Christians. America is now full of a lot of followers of the spirit of Barabbas, the spirit of nationalism, the spirit of patriotism. And this has been the scourge from the beginning of time until now. Jesus was crucified, and when he was crucified, the people, his people, God's people, chose a nationalistic patriot over Jesus. When the siege of Jerusalem took place during the days of Jeremiah, and Nebuchadnezzar showed up, Babylon showed up to take them captive, there was also a patriot that messed things up, and he got a lot of people killed. His name was Johanan, and he argued with Jeremiah, and after Nebuchadnezzar showed up, and a lot of people died, a lot were taken prisoner. Johanan, the patriot, asked Jeremiah, what should we do? We'll listen to you. And Jeremiah told him what to do. And Johanan said, nope, you're lying to us. We're going to do it on our own. We're going to decide for ourselves. We're going to save ourselves. And God told Jeremiah to tell Johanan that if you try to save yourself and do it with your own plan, you will die in Egypt. You will die of plague, of pestilence, of the sword. Your carcasses will be left in Egypt because you're trying to do it yourself. Fast forward to today, folks. To now. We have folks trying to do it themselves. Now, I was talking about Obama a moment ago. A lot of evangelicals who now are following Trump, diehard Trump followers, were saying that Obama was the Antichrist. Now, let's just visit that for a moment. If Obama was the Antichrist 5 years ago, that would mean that anyone who said those words in their head believed that we were in the end times. And if they were admitting that Obama was the Antichrist, that means that in their mind, they believe that the geopolitical positioning of nations of the world and of legislation happening around the world was going to lead to what we read in the Bible with the beast system, the worldwide totalitarian dictatorship, if Obama was the guy. But then Trump showed up, and Obama wasn't the guy, and all of a sudden they wanted America to be made great again. Now, folks, think about that. If Obama was the Antichrist and we were on the edge and the door of the tribulation, all of a sudden God's people are going to turn one of the nations of the world into something great and hit the pause button on end-time Bible prophecy? That's absurd. And you had those NAR, New Apostolic Reformation 7 Mountain Prophets, who showed up 5 years ago. Mark Taylor, Lance Wallnau, Jeremiah Johnson. They showed up and gave false prophecies and lied to the church. And some of the spiritual leaders out there who you respected said some crazy things. They said some unbiblical things. Trump is Cyrus, Trump is Samson, Trump is John the Baptist, Trump is this and that. He's the Lion of Judah. When we hear about all those accolades given to Trump, those are the things the Antichrist was going to be given, folks. Come on. And the church said it about Trump. Seriously? Really? I know I'm pretty fired up right now, folks, but it's just a mess. It's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed for the church right now. And now we had this incursion on the Capitol. And we're not done, by the way. They want to go back and finish the job. Here comes that train. That train's obnoxious, that horn. I'll just keep on going. Ignore the train if you can hear it, folks. But when that incursion happened on the Capitol in D.C., a lot of Christians immediately, within hours, were saying it was Antifa. And some of the people that we saw, that the whole world saw, the guy with the horns, remember him? The guy holding the zip ties, jumping over chairs, and we saw some guy rappelling into the House chamber. Then I heard Christians claiming that the horn guy, now we know his name. His name's Jake Angeli, or that's the name he goes by. That's actually not his real name. He calls himself the Coup shaman. He has several names. The Yellowstone wolf. He has several names. He considers himself an esoteric cleric who uses his powers of his third eye that is open, and he uses his ability to fight with occultic light. He says he uses the occult to fight with light.
So, in order to beat this evil occultic force, you need a light occultic force. You need an occultic force that is of the side of God, of love, like almost like on the side of the angels, okay, as opposed to the demons. All right. And so as a shaman, I am like a multidimensional or hyperdimensional being. Okay, I am able to perceive multiple different frequencies of light beyond my five senses, and it allows me to see into these other higher dimensions that these entities, these pedophiles, these rapists, these murderers, these really high up people, that they almost like hide in the shadows in. Nobody can see that because the third eye ain't open. Okay? And that's where things like fluoride and stuff like that comes in. So the horns are, hey man, you mess with the buffalo, you get the horns, bro. And if you ever tried messing with the buffalo, that doesn't work out too well for many people. This right here, this is coyote skin. According to the Navajo, the coyote is like the trickster, almost like a malevolent force. So I'm wearing the skin of the trickster. I got two tails here, okay? So the trickster messed with the bull, got the horns, okay? And the face paint is representative of the Native American tradition of like donning on war paint of some sort. Only this is, go ahead. Oh, no, only this is a war that is of like a spiritual nature, okay? So because it's a war of a spiritual nature, you need symbolism, okay? And the symbolism here for me is you got the blood on the sign, the bullet holes Q sent me. This shows the secret war behind the scenes.
So this guy is interesting, but he has been in Arizona. He lives in Arizona, and he's been featured on Arizona News for the past several years at Trump rallies over and over.
Yeah! Thank you, President Trump! Thank you, Q! America! Land of the free, home of the brave!
Okay, did you see that? He's a Trumpster. He admitted it. A lot of Christians wanted to blame someone else, just like I said earlier. So they said that Jake Angeli is Antifa when he's not. And I went all online, and I went into YouTube. I looked at what some of the mainstream preachers were saying, and what some of those fake charlatan prophets were saying, like Lance Wallnau. And Lance Wallnau said it. He's Antifa. He's not one of us. And then Lynn Wood, the attorney that has been helping Sidney Powell fight the stolen election, placed on Parler, he posted it on Parler, that the guy's Antifa. And by the way, here's some irony. Jake Angeli has been promoting Lynn Wood as a good guy, as someone to listen to. Before the incursion in D.C., he would promote Lynn Wood. But then Lynn Wood slandered him and libeled him to the world, and all the Christians believed it. The evangelicals believed it. And then a meme, a photograph showed up from the Philly Antifa website.org website, and the Philly Antifa website features Nazis, Aryan members, and people who are part of the white supremacist crowd. They feature that. That's what their website does. They want to expose who the Nazis are. So they featured Jake Angeli, the horn guy, at one time, and they also featured some of the other people who were with him as being white supremacists. Someone found it and put it up, and they turned it into a meme. And it went out to the whole world. It went out to the entire Christian community, to all the churches, to all the evangelicals, and to my Facebook friends. And a lot of folks started posting, look, he's Antifa. Our guy wouldn't do that. Our people wouldn't do that. And in 1 minute, ladies and gentlemen, on the 6th of January, in 1 minute, I was able to find Jake Angeli's real name. I was able to find his interviews in Arizona. And I was able to find many sound bites and many video clips and tweets of him promoting Coup and Trump. So I knew that he was a Trumpster. I knew it. And I went on Facebook and I tried to tell folks, you know what? You're spreading information and you haven't even vetted it. You haven't found out if it's true. And people argued with me and said, I'm a traitor. I must want Biden. I must want Hillary. Why? Because I'm telling the truth? Folks, is the church so pathetic now that instead of loving the truth, they would rather listen to a lie because it makes them feel good? Or it will not isolate guilt? It doesn't shine the light on maybe a boo-boo that they made? It's amazing to me that instead of owning it and saying, you know what, guys, this Trump train is making us look bad. Instead of saying that and owning that, instead, the strategy is to deny that the Trump train is doing what it's doing, making a mockery of the Bible. Instead of doing that, it's easier to just believe a fake meme and blame others. This guy, Jake Angeli, is a Trump follower. And now it's been exposed. They interviewed his mother. It's all exposed now, folks. And one by one, a lot of those pictures of the people in the House chamber have been found out. They have been ID'd. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They are all Trump followers. They are Q followers as well. A lot of them follow both. They are radical Trump followers, patriots, conservatives. The guy that had the zip ties, the older guy, the older gentleman wearing the green helmet, right here, here's his picture. He turned out to be a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. military. A lieutenant colonel. This other guy with zip ties turned out to be a bartender, a Trump follower who showed up at this rally with his mother. Here's a picture of him with his mom. We're finding out now that a lot of these individuals are Trump followers. Let me just take it a little further. They're Trump worshipers, and they're Q worshipers that are deluded with the lie of Trump. But we're finding out now that many of the people who infiltrated and used force and fought against the cops, the Capitol Police Force, are themselves police officers from all around the country. Deputy sheriffs showed up and infiltrated. Firemen showed up and infiltrated. Trump followers. We had congressmen, we had mayors, we had business owners who followed Trump, who were in there. So to blame Antifa was a short-lived effort, but it's expired, folks. It wasn't Antifa. Let's own it now. The church needs to take responsibility. And some of you folks need to really do some soul searching, because some of you don't want to believe it and you're going to leave some negative comments here. But I don't follow lies, and I don't follow things that haven't been vetted or proven. The Bible says we have to have witnesses when we want to believe something, because if we don't, it's a false witness. And that's one of the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not bear false witness, because it's a lie, folks. Come on. How did it happen, though? How did so many Christians get led astray? It's because of some things that I have to say that are blunt, ladies and gentlemen. They're blunt because of lack of discernment that we're supposed to have. And if we don't have discernment in these last days, we're going to be led astray, just like we're watching right now, folks. You know that lady that tried to jump through into the Senate chamber that got shot in the neck and died? She was a Q follower and a Trump follower and a veteran of the military. And you know what's so sad, ladies and gentlemen? The liar Trump, and yeah, that's right, he's a liar. He lied over 20,000 times during his occupation of the White House. He lied to the people. He lied at the rally, and he said, I'm going to follow you to the Capitol. But he didn't.
And after this, we're going to walk down, and I'll be there with you. We're going to walk down. We're going to walk down. Anyone you want, but I think right here, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. And we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women. And we're probably not going to be cheering so much for some of them, because you'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
He abandoned them. Why did some of them have zip ties? What were they planning, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Q said that they're all going to be hung. Q has been telling people they're all going to be arrested. Trump's going to arrest all of them. So you had Trump followers show up at the incursion with zip ties. They were planning to take prisoners. They were planning it, folks. A gallows was erected outside of the Capitol, in the lawn, by Trump followers, by Christians, by supposed evangelicals. So Trump said during his speech, "I'll follow you over there." But he didn't. He didn't follow him. So right there, he's a liar. For one of the biggest events in American history, he made all these promises. This is going to be the beginning. We're about to do it with force. You can't do it without force. You have to do it with power, with force. He told them that. And before the people walked over to the Capitol, Rudy Giuliani also fomented the madness. He said, we have to have trial by combat.
So, let's have trial by combat.
Ladies and gentlemen, evangelical Trump supporters have been taken for a ride. And I do believe that Trump was hoping shots would have been fired by the followers. He was hoping that that violence would have erupted from the Patriots. Now, thank God they didn't. Thank God. Because there was a multifaceted effort and motive behind it. Patriots were trying to do was stop the vote. That was the reason for the incursion, was to stop the vote, which didn't work, by the way. They still voted. So it didn't work. Now, some of you may be wanting to argue, and you'll leave comments and saying, well, the doors were open. Some of the Capitol Police opened the door. Yeah, that's true. We had some Capitol Police that did their job, and then we had Capitol Police that were Trump followers who let them in. And that's what happens when you have a president behave this way. You're going to have some of the people at their jobs obey their chosen politician. And that's what some of them did. And we have it. We have proof that some of them opened doors. We know it. We saw it. But at the same time, we had others who didn't open the doors, and they resisted. And they died or were injured. We had patriots behave like a mob and turn themselves into a battering ram and almost crushed one of the Capitol Police officers to death. Look at this. He almost got crushed to death. Now, folks, these are Trump supporters doing this. If some of you still want to hold on to the lie that it was Antifa, I can't stop you. But we have to still own it now. It's time for us to just admit it. These were Trump followers doing this. And then look at what they're doing right here. They're throwing flagpoles at the cops. They're throwing furniture. They're hitting the cops with the legs of furniture. They broke the windows in the Capitol building, and they're climbing in, and then they're handing out flagpoles and closet rods and curtain rods and just whatever they can find, and they're using them as weapons. They're using these things as weapons against the cops. Check this out, folks. Look at it. This is not Antifa doing this. These are patriots who climb through the window, and they're handing out parts of the furniture to then beat the cops. You know, I saw someone try to take a portion of this video, and they zoomed in on it so you could see, so that people couldn't see that it was Trump followers. And they zoomed in on this open window, this broken window, and they said, look, Antifa's handing weapons to their Antifa people so that they can hurt the cops. No. Look at this. Let's zoom out. Look what they're doing, folks. Come on. Is this the way Christians are supposed to behave? So this violence that you're watching right now is not what the Trump supporters have been showing. They've been showing the doors open and them walking right in because it's convenient. because some of those Capitol Police officers chose to just allow them to come in. Now, of course, the place wasn't surrounded by the National Guard. You know why? Because Trump stood down the National Guard. He didn't want them there. He didn't want them there. Now, of course, later on, Pence called them in, but Trump didn't want them there. Why? Because Trump wanted the city to catch on fire, and he wanted the Capitol to catch on fire. That's what he wanted. It was a self-serving attempt to perform a coup. Folks, Trump took us for a ride. And now, let me talk about my warning. I'm very, very concerned. In the next few days, we're going to have history either happen or not. The Patriots want to go back to D.C. on the 19th and do a coup. And they're not going to be peaceful about it this time. They're talking about shedding blood, about hanging congressmen, about making arrests, military tribunals. But folks, I have a question. If the Patriots show up and perform a coup on D.C., who's going to be the leader? Trump is. If they do a coup, then that nullifies the Constitution, because there will be no constitutional precedent for doing what they will do if it's done on the 19th of January or later. It could come later. But if it does happen, who's going to be the leader? Trump will. What are the rules going to be? What will be the checks and balances for Madman Trump? What's the long-term plan for having Madman Trump in there as a dictator of America? What's your plan? What's the exit plan? What's the longevity plan? Will there be free elections after that? What will change in the Constitution? What will happen to the rules of freedom? Will we start seeing mobs that go door to door across the country and knock on the doors and ask the people where their loyalty is or where their sympathy is? Are you a Democratic sympathizer? Come with us. Or are you a Democratic sympathizer? Bam! That's what happened in Nazi Germany, folks. You had the loyalists. You had the loyalists to Hitler eliminate all the enemies of Hitler or the opposition. And then through fear, everyone by force started saying Heil Hitler. What's your plan if Trump stays in office, ladies and gentlemen? How is that going to make America great? Do you think the world's going to want to cooperate with him after his madness? They're going to say he's a dictator. He will be the Mussolini of the 21st century, or the Hitler. He'll cause war. America will be attacked. It's not going to bring greatness to America. It's going to bring bloodshed and fire and destruction and ruin. Folks, if we're in the last days, and some of you were saying Obama was the Antichrist 5 years ago, and then a coup happens in the United States, and the United States no longer is recognizable, and then you have Trump, the boisterous loudmouth, narcissist, psychopath, taking over America. Where does that put him in the timeline? Where does that put him in the obvious choice of cast of characters, ladies and gentlemen? Where does that put him? It makes him the Antichrist. Let me just say it. If the Patriots do a coup, that makes Trump the Antichrist. Period. If America is Mystery Babylon, or the daughter of Babylon, if America is that widow that said, I'll never see sorrow, folks, come on. We're going to have the spirit that was in Nazi Germany rise up again in America, and the Trump Patriots will turn into the SS, secret police for Trump. That's what's going to happen. And a spirit of murder will be released on America. It already has been, by the way. It's already released. And demons and evil spirits will infiltrate every corner of the United States. And those demon spirits are going to go forth with murder, with destruction, with mayhem, with pestilence, with the sword, and they're going to destroy. When it says in Revelation 13, Satan was given to him to make war with the saints. What do you think that meant, folks? And to overcome them, by the way. It says that. And then it goes into taking people captive, and if anyone kills with the sword, they'll die with the sword. That's also included. In America, if some of you go and zip tie Congress people and politicians, or even locally, or your neighbors. You want to purge the neighborhood of all the Democrats or the people that don't agree with you politically, and you send them to prison. The Bible says in Revelation 13, go read it. He who leads into captivity will himself go into it. You reap what you sow, folks. And if some of you start killing and shedding blood, it says those that kill with the sword must with the sword be killed. You will be killed yourself. That's the law of sowing and reaping. That's the way it's going to be. And your family members will probably get killed because you're going to anger folks. You start killing people in your neighborhoods that you don't like, there's always a consequence. There is always a cost. And right now we're looking at this thing. They're talking about doing a coup. And I'm calling it a coup because that's what their intent is. Colonel 007 is a person who has been posting on Parler. Now that, Parler's gone now, by the way. But he's been posting that this thing has to take place and you need to get your lives in order. Those of you that are going to show up, get your lives in order and prepare to die for the cause. He's telling the Trumpian people. That's crazy talk, folks. So those of you who want to see America made great, are you also willing to have your legs shot off and your arms shot off and your head blown off? Are you willing to do that for Trump? For him? Well, Nathan, we're trying to make America great. Okay, if you're a Christian, you have to know what time it is, folks. There's not going to be any making America great in the end times. That coup that they want to do on the 19th, if that's the date, it could be a different date, also includes something else. They want the Patriots to go to every state capital in America and do the same thing. Create a riot to arrest politicians. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're a Bible-believing Christian, we need to pray right now that this does not happen. Because if this happens, and let's look at the possibilities here. If an attempt is made one more time and it fails, and if one gun is shot, one bullet comes out of a chamber anywhere in the country from those patriots, and it fails, that means Biden will be the president on the 20th, and Harris. It's going to give them everything they need to do a lockdown on America, to declare martial law, and to make guns illegal, to do a gun grab. It's going to put it right into their hand like a Christmas present. It'll remove the Second Amendment, and maybe the First, and the martial law that Trump said he was going to do will be done by Biden. And it's going to play right into his hand, because then the categories of people who participated, who are usually right-wingers, evangelicals, conservatives, patriots, Christians, will be isolated, and it will become open season against the church. It will give Biden what he needs to then start arresting all the Christians, to arrest all the patriots, to do a real lockdown on America, a military lockdown. It's going to play it right into their hands, folks. That's why I have to warn against this. Now, I want to talk to you about something that has been on my mind. I was thinking about it. I was considering it. When the Patriots went into the Capitol, they were in there for a number of hours. And the damage wasn't the worst in the world. They did do damage. Fire extinguishers went off. Glass was broken. Doors were broken. They busted through some of the doors of congressional offices, senator offices, etc. But they didn't burn the place down. They did their thing, and then they left. Now, first of all, the real reason that they did this was as a diversion. Trump needed a diversion. He needed a diversion in the Capitol building because, okay, let's go back to the days of Nixon. When we had the Watergate break-in, the DNC was burglarized, and they wanted to steal some very important information, some files. Back then they didn't have computers, so they wanted the files, classified information from the Democrats. They got caught, though. When we had this incursion, that same thing happened. It was very convenient, and some of you have already heard that Pelosi's laptop was taken, but before I even knew it was taken, I was already thinking about this. Because that's not the only thing that was taken, folks. That's not the only thing. Now, there's a train. If you can hear it, please disregard it. Files were stolen from Democratic congressmen, from Pelosi, from all those liberal people that many of you hate, files were stolen. Classified material was stolen. Computers were hacked. Nathan, when did this happen? During the mayhem. I mean, folks, come on. Wouldn't you do that? In the crowd of those rustlers that were in there, doing their thing, having their fun. In that crowd were elements of individuals who knew how to tap into computers, who used their special equipment hidden in their backpacks to go into computers of a lot of those Democratic politicians and grab everything. Also, very sensitive information was stolen. Hard copies of information was stolen. And also, because Trump wanted that information. And bugs were left. Bugs and listening devices were left all over the Capitol in Democratic offices. But Trump wanted some information for a reason. So the question is, if he is leaving office, how is that going to benefit him? Who stands to gain by having that information? Trump does. It's his administration, and if he happens to stay in office by a coup or some miracle, if he happens to do that, the information on those computers will come to his benefit. Now, aside from those political reasons for taking advantage of the incursion, there's another one that I am very concerned about, folks. And this is not a thus saith the Lord. I don't have any proof of it. Nobody told me. This is just me with my simple pea brain taking into consideration what's the worst case scenario that could happen out of this. What's the worst, ladies and gentlemen? And here's what it is. And I want to be very sensitive on how I say this, because I have no knowledge of this. This is just me using my assessment. Now, we do have a precedence for what I'm about to say. When 9/11 took place, when the buildings fell, a lot of gold was stolen. A lot of gold. Billions of dollars worth of gold was stolen. And no one knows where it went. No one saw it happen, but it was during the diversion. So think about this, folks. Let's think about the worst case scenario that could happen. When all those people were running around and then they were made to leave, then federal people were in there. Federal agents were in there. Soldiers, CIA, FBI, Department of Justice people, as well as military folks, as well as law enforcement. There was a lot of people in there walking throughout the building. Also, I'm very concerned that there were rogue elements walking around the building. And when no one was around, when everyone was gone, I'm very concerned that some devices could have been left in the building. Somewhere, somehow. And those devices were left for a future date, for a future trigger when everybody would be in the same location. When you would get all the Democrats in one room, few Republicans, and then Biden and Harris. Now, folks, how much of a nightmare would it be if a device were to detonate in the Capitol during the, let's say, State of the Union address? Is that possible? You know what, folks? Anything's possible now. Nathan, come on. They wouldn't do that. Really? We already watched history, and there's nothing beyond this insanity. Nothing. And if this thing was going to take place, it would eliminate all of Trump's opposition in one fell swoop. And then he could take over the United States of America. Now, the only problem with this concern is I don't have any proof for it. I hope they don't. And I think we should pray that they don't, ladies and gentlemen, because that would change everything. It would change everything. Because then they would blame it on patriots and Christians if something like that happened, or depending on what they wanted out of the outcome, they could decide on having a low yield mortality number or a high yield mortality number. They could decide on how much collateral damage they wanted to come out of this. So therefore, it could just be in a nondescript room, the janitor closet, and the damage could be limited, or they could go for broke. I don't know. But I'm concerned about this, ladies and gentlemen. On paper, the media would tell us, on the surface, Biden's going to get in on the 20th and Trump's done. That's what they say. But we're not living in normal times. And I expect Trump to try to stay in power. If he doesn't do it, thank God. Nathan, what, you want Biden? No, I don't want Biden, but I don't want the Antichrist in power either. I don't want any of them, folks. And I know it's frustrating for some of you because some of you want an answer. You want me to give you the name to choose. And I can't do that because neither side is good. Neither Herod is good or Caesar or Pilate. None of them are good. None. So who do I pick, Nathan? Pick Jesus. Pick Mickey Mouse. I don't know. If the inauguration is carried out on the 20th, we're not done, folks. We're not done. Because there are patriotic groups, there are Aryan Nation groups, there's white supremacist groups, they're all over the place. Proud Boys, a lot of different groups have already vowed that this is just the start. This is just the beginning. That war is coming, civil war is coming, they're going for broke, they're ready, they want it, they're excited about it. And so an insurrection could occur a month later after the Biden inauguration, or 6 months later, or the summer. It could happen at any time. There could be a lone gunman, a lone actor, a lone person, or a group of people. And when it happens, just so you know, folks, I don't think a patriot is going to be behind it. I think rogue elements in the government are going to be behind it, whether they're on Biden's side or Trump's side. I could see Biden doing a false flag to take away the guns. So I could see Biden and Harris doing it to change America into a communistic nation. And of course, if that happens, then for sure we're going to have civil war. We will have civil war, and we'll have to realign this discussion. If Biden stays in office, folks, to be clear, there's going to be a lot of very concerned Christians and patriots and evangelicals, and we will see, I expect to see it, the rise of another era where citizen soldiers rise up to try to put a stop to it. One of the historical movements that experienced that was the Maccabees, who were trying to bring an end to the oppression from the Seleucid empires, the Greek generals who were oppressing Jerusalem. The high priest rose up and his sons started to revolt, and they created an army of soldiers, and they were successful. So if Biden stays in power, I think that a similar type group is going to rise up, the Macs, and there will be bloodshed, and it's going to be terrible, folks. It's going to be horrible. That's where we are now. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is my concern. So please be on the alert. And when Linwood put out that warning that the lights are going to go out, have 2 weeks of food because something's coming, just in case, folks, try to do it. All right? Just in case. But I don't think that the window of opportunity is limited to the next week before the inauguration. This thing can happen at any time. Anytime. It could happen a month after Biden gets in there. It could happen 6 months later. It could happen at any point, ladies and gentlemen. So we need to be on our guard now. Get your preps ready. Get your life in order. And if some of you are concerned about your spiritual walk with God, you know where you are, ladies and gentlemen. You know what's going on in your life. You know the secrets that you have. You know what you tolerate. You know the sins that you have in there. You know the things that you enjoy. You know them, folks. So do something about it. Take the high ground. Let this be a new start. Let it be a new start, ladies and gentlemen. I'm so disappointed with the evangelical church. And even more, I am very disappointed with the leadership, the church leadership. I'm very disappointed with them because they grabbed onto the Trump train, to the live Trump, and they led their people astray. And you know what, folks? God tells us that the leaders are the ones going to be held in higher, stricter judgment, in higher accountability. I'm telling you the truth, folks. So there's a lot of soul searching that needs to take place. There's a lot of healing that needs to come. There's a lot of repenting that needs to come. A lot of you folks who latched on to Trump and you say you love Jesus, and then you forsook the brethren that didn't want to get on the Trump train, and you were mean to them. You said some horrible things to them. You insulted them, whether they be family members or church members or brethren. You know, folks, you need to repent, and you need to call them up, and you need to do some apologizing. Own it, folks. Ladies and gentlemen, the Bible never told us that at the end of time, before Jesus comes back, that portions of the world would start glowing with the glory of God and goodness, and all of a sudden victory would be over the devil and humans would have victory over Satan. The Bible does not say that. The Bible tells us that the saints would be given over to Satan, and Satan will overcome them. It tells us the Antichrist would deceive the church and flatter them and win them over with intrigue, and then he would stomp them and trample them and destroy them, sift them. Nathan, why? Why? Because it's time now to show which side we're on. It's time to make a choice. Jesus is going to purge the church. He's going to thresh the church. The church is full of wrinkles right now, ladies and gentlemen. Do you think the church is rapture ready right now after all this? Seriously? For those of you that think the rapture is about to happen, if the rapture happens right now, a lot of church folks are going to be left behind. Plain and simple. Because they're following a lie. They chose Barabbas over Jesus. If you want to go in the rapture, you need to get rid of the religion of Coup. What, Nathan? I can't vote for Trump and like him? No, you can like him, but you need to knock him off the pedestal. And Jesus is not going to share the throne with him. I'm not afraid to say it. And I'm not going to apologize for saying it, folks. Trump misled the church. He misled a lot of you, and we need to repent. We need to come back, and we need to restore fellowship with those that we forsook. Plain and simple. We need to admit we were deceived. Because if Trump deceived, now let's put this in perspective, folks. If Trump, in your mind, is not the Antichrist, but he deceived the church, and the church was that easily swindled and deceived, what is the Antichrist going to do? What is the mark going to do? Well, we won't be deceived by the mark of the Antichrist, Nathan. We'll have better sense. Really? A lot of folks in the American church have proven themselves to lack discernment. We need to go back to the basics of discernment, ladies and gentlemen. We need to. And, you know, a lot of church folks who are using politics have always been what gets the church and the people of God in trouble. Israel saw it. During the time of Jesus, they saw it. Why did Judas betray Jesus? Because he was expecting Jesus to become a political Messiah and overthrow the Romans. And when he saw that Jesus wasn't going in that direction, he forsook Jesus. He betrayed Jesus. And that's what we're watching now, folks. The spirit of Judas, which is the spirit of perdition, chose politics. The son of perdition, who Jesus said should never have been born, would have been better if he wasn't born. If Judas Iscariot was not born, it would be better for him. But what was his downfall? Politics, patriotism, nationalism, and a misprint, typo of their own biblical eschatology. Who put the idea in Judas's mind that the Messiah was going to overthrow the Romans? Where did he get that? He got it from the spiritual leaders, the spiritual experts who supposedly knew the Bible, who got it wrong. They were expecting wrong things to happen and got through a curveball. That's how it's happening now, folks. We're watching it happen now. And when it happens, that makes the church vulnerable. It makes Christians vulnerable. Ladies and gentlemen, don't be vulnerable to the devil, to his lies. We need to be wise. We need to be overcomers. We need to be able to look the lie in the face and say what it is. It's a lie. It's a lie. The orange man was a lie, folks. It was a lie. MAGA is a lie. By the way, MAGA means sorcery and witch in Latin. Did you know that, folks? Anyway, this video is long. I've said a lot. I'm pretty sure a lot of you folks are mad at me, but that comes with the job. It's fine. Well, Nathan, you're not being very nice. You know what, folks? I'm looking over the horizon. I'm up on the wall, and I'm looking over the horizon, and I see the flames coming. I can hear the hoofbeats, the hooves of the horsemen of the apocalypse coming. The red horse of war is coming. The only question is, will that horse of war get his party started with a world war or a civil war in America? You know that girl that died? It was shot in the neck. She died wrapped in Trump's flag. Not the flag of America, no, Trump's flag. I saw so many people wearing the flag of Coup and the Trump flag. Folks, what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with it? We had people beating BLM folks and Antifa folks because they didn't respect the flag. But all day long, I saw the American flag turn into a superhero costume on all these people. They wore it. They turned it into bandanas and hats. They were using it as spears, throwing them at the cops. And why is it that Blue Lives Matter when it comes to Antifa and BLM? Blue Lives Matter. Cops matter. We're with you, bro. Unless we're invading the Capitol, then we're going to beat you up and kill you. You know, one of the cops that died was beat with a fire extinguisher on his face. A cop was murdered by the Patriots. No, Nathan, it was Antifa. Come on, folks. I just showed you a video of people using flagpoles as spears. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. And right now, I want nothing ever again to do with the Republican Party. Ever. And for the most part right now, I have a bad taste in my mouth for evangelicals and the pastors of evangelical churches. All those knuckleheads, the spiritual leaders. Jerry Falwell Jr. turned out to be a joke. He promoted Trump, and then it turns out that he's an alcoholic, and oh man, it's a mess. Clouds without water. Charlatans deceiving and being deceived. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a mess. The church needs to go back to the first love. We need to return to the things we did at first. The first things. The things Jesus wants us to do, folks. In your patience, you possess your souls. That's the words of Jesus. If you are patient, there's another election coming in 2 years. You will possess your soul if you're patient. If you're impatient and you want to do it yourself, Jesus said, in your patient, you possess your soul. You get to possess your soul and let Jesus kind of help out. If you're impatient, you're not possessing your soul. You're giving your soul over to the enemy, folks. So the impatient ones are going to hand their souls over to the enemy. Jesus said it. In your patience, you possess your soul. In Revelation, when it says, they that lead into captivity will themselves go. Those who kill with the sword will die with the sword. And then it says it again. This is the faith and patience of the saints. Which one are you going to be? Jesus is coming back. And guess what, folks? He has a book of remembrance. And he's recording everything. All of this. That's the message, folks. Return. Night is coming. Darkness is coming. And a lot of folks need to return to God. A lot of people need to return to Jesus. A lot of folks need to return to their first love. And a lot of people need to burn their MAGA cap. Throw it in the fire. I do not support the Democrats. I do not want Biden to be in office. But a coup is not the answer. Please do not participate in that. Now or in the future. Please don't. And if some of you folks hate my words because they're true, I'm giving you the Bible, ladies and gentlemen. I'm quoting the scriptures. I'm giving you the witness of the word. Do not participate in a coup. Do not participate in uprising. It does not bring glory to God. It follows the spirit of Judas and the spirit of Barabbas. So ladies and gentlemen, you have a choice now. You get to pick. You get to choose. Choose the Lord and get prepared. All right, folks? Now, ladies and gentlemen, I know this was a hard word, but I had to say it. Please share this with everyone that you know. Please subscribe to this channel. Please hit the like button because it'll help the YouTube algorithm. Remember us in your prayers and in your financial support. So with that, I want to be going. Allison will be sharing a word pretty soon. She has a few things that the Lord has laid on her heart. She'll be sharing. We'll come back also together at times. So with that, I'm going to be going. God bless you. I love you. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.